All right, I think we can get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin. Thank you for hopping online tonight for our safety and security webinar. We have three great people with us this evening. We have Pastor Sean Hannon, who serves as a safety and security team leader. We have Rachel McConnell, who serves as the medical manager. And then we have our director, Molly Beck-Dean. A few quick things before I pass it over to them. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of Zoom, and we'll kind of be looking at those throughout the webinar and then answer them towards the end. And then one last thing, we wanted to give a special thanks to the ELCA Foundation for sponsoring our Zoom webinar series. The Foundation's ministry is to help congregations and individuals make an impact in the world. One of the ministries of the foundation is providing socially responsible investing for ELCA congregations and ministries, which follow the guidelines and priorities of the ELCA. If you or your ministry would like to learn more about the foundation, we encourage you to visit elcafoundation.org and contact your regional gift planner. With that being said, I will pass it over to Sean and share our screen.
Perfect. And welcome again, everybody. Thank you for attending tonight's webinar. I'm grateful that so many people have decided to attend tonight. It speaks volumes of something that's important to you as it is to us, and that is the safety of our young people when we head to Minneapolis next summer. Before we get into too many of the nitty-gritty stuff, first, I want to take a minute to introduce you to the safety and security team. The safety and security team is comprised of three different components. The first is our security team. The security team is led by Tom Tressel. He's a retired New York City Police Department lieutenant detective. And after his 20 years on the force, he's been a security director at 2 colleges in Manhattan. He served on 7 safety and security teams and as the security director for 6 of those cycles. Keeping young people safe in big cities is his calling. And the gathering has been blessed by his expertise and by his attention to detail. Rachel McConnell will be our medical manager in Minneapolis, and she's with us on the call tonight. So I won't speak too much because we'll get to hear a little more from her later. But she's a registered nurse and serves in Minneapolis. She served on the safety security team in the past, as well as on the mile team. She's new to this particular role, but she brings her expertise in the field as well as her experience in youth ministry to this role. And finally, we have our chaplains. They're led by Misael Fajardo Perez. He's a pastor and a past gathering chaplain. Misael has served as the gathering chaplain both in Detroit and in Houston prior to this event. Misael and his team will be available throughout the gathering through dedicated space in our venues, as well as through the information line. Aspects of our team have the experience of cycles dating all the way back to 2003. And yet we also have new perspectives and new roles. And each cycle we've adapted to the specific challenges and opportunities in the cities that we go to, as well as to the changing times. And we are dedicated to keeping every child and every participant who heads to the gathering safe and plugged into the programming of the gathering until they head home. Next screen, please, Justin. That's a bit about the team. I suppose a quick word about me. As Justin mentioned, I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor outside of Buffalo, and I've been in my call for 11 years. In that period of time, we've sent youth to gatherings in New Orleans, in Detroit, and in Houston, and I've got to see firsthand the impact of this ministry in the lives of young people, and I'm grateful for it. I also had the opportunity to go to, I should have said, our safety and security team has experience dating back all the way to 2000, because that would be the youth gathering that I myself got to go to. And I know that Rachel's had the opportunity to attend gatherings as both a participant and leader as well. But since 2009, I've served on the safety and security team. That means I've worked with 4 different cities. I'm delighted to tell you that we've never been in the position that we're in this early with the city. Minneapolis has been proactive. They have been at the table with us, and we have met with resources from nearly every aspect of public works. They are committed to being prepared and equipped for tens of thousands of young people in their city next summer, and they want to be in the best position to help keep our participants safe until they're able to go home. As you can see from this picture here, we've also had the opportunity to meet with Police Chief Arredondo. Chief Arredondo is excited about our event, and he's been not helpful only in regards to the safety of our participants in Minneapolis itself, but also eager to help us connect with all of the agencies that we'll need to work with as our kids arrive and disperse throughout the greater Twin Cities area. I'd like to share a video now from Police Chief Arredondo himself.
Hello, I'm Minneapolis Police Chief Madera Arredondo. On behalf of our entire city, I'd like to personally invite you to attend ELCA's 2022 Youth Gathering in Minneapolis. Our city has long welcomed people from around the world, and today we're also on a path to demonstrate that we are a safe and welcoming city to everyone. Like all major cities, public safety is a top priority. As I lead the transformation of the Minneapolis Police Department and engage our department in creating a new MPD, I am steadfast that our three core values must be trust, accountability, and professional service. We've implemented changes in our policing practices. Accountability and transparency remain priorities to the Minneapolis Police Department. And investments are being made in a new community-driven strategies, so all of our visitors and residents feel safe. Working with us are community and business leaders, our Sheriff's Department and Metro Transit Police. Plus, our friendly Minneapolis DID ambassadors are visible on our sidewalks throughout downtown, ready and available to help you with directions and information 365 days a year. I'm looking forward to the energy and excitement that you and 30,000 young people will bring to our city. And I want you to know that the Minneapolis Police Department and the City of Minneapolis are dedicated to making your stay in our city a safe and memorable one. We look forward to welcoming you in 2022. Hello.
Very good. Thanks, Chief Arredondo. I think we should probably let the DID ambassadors that wear those brightly colored shirts to stand out. We should let them know that they're going to blend in with our event next summer. They might want to tone it down. Otherwise, they might get mistaken for participants. In addition to meeting with city officials, of course, we also work hand in hand and very closely with the venues that our participants are primarily at throughout the gathering, specifically the Minneapolis Convention Center and US Bank Stadium. We work with their staff and with their teams to monitor just about every detail that is happening while our participants are in program and on their way. In addition, because we know that there will be some traffic, some foot traffic going between the venues, we have an official walking route that we will make sure is safe and supervised while participants make their way to the stadium and from the stadium each night. We're very grateful as we head to the land of Lutherans that there are so many local Lutherans who have been in conversation with us, helping us get a sense of the things that are going on in the city, things that we should be aware of and have been a resource to us. Next slide, please. In addition to the venues, I can't speak highly enough of the team of volunteers and the GVC that help make safety and security possible at our events. Tom Tressel shines in this particular role, making sure that our volunteers are equipped to handle tens of thousands of kids all at once. We utilize private security when and where we have to, because we're committed to making sure that every participant is safe while they're in program at the gathering. We work with all of the gathering teams, but perhaps most closely with those teams like service learning, where kids are heading out to various parts of the city to do projects on a daily basis. We reach out to local agencies where we know those projects are going to be taking place so that they're aware of our presence and so that those places know how to get in contact with us immediately in the event of incident or injury. Before I end this part on security specifically with the gathering, I do want to name, as a pastor and a parent and a past participant, that the number one thing you can do to make sure that your youth are safe throughout the gathering is send them with responsible leaders. Leaders who are up to the task, leaders who are accountable, leaders who are present, and leaders who are prepared. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, we have a chaplain team this time around. As we've learned about the importance of mental health, we as a gathering have made it a priority to make sure that the mental health of our participants is attended to, and that we're equipped for not just injury, but emotional and spiritual crisis as well. As I said, Misael and his team, they're going to have dedicated space in each of the major venues, in the convention center and again in US Bank Stadium, so that people who need it will find opportunity for prayer, for quiet, and for conversation. In addition to that, our chaplains are also available through the information line. They can be reached anytime, day or night. And they're not merely there to respond for participants in need, but to be a resource to you, the leaders, to care for you as you care for the young people in your groups. With that, I'll turn things over to Rachel.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Justin and Sean, for the introduction. You are correct. I have participated in many a gathering. The first one actually was in my mother's womb. So yes, the gathering runs deep, and I am honored to be a part of this conversation today. My update will be brief because there is a lot we do not know. The gathering is still many months away, and so we cannot and we will not make any promises today about what the state of COVID will be. There's so much we don't know, and things change quickly. What we do know is that it will take the cooperation of all participants working together to keep ourselves, each other, and the community of Minneapolis safe. In this era of global pandemic and social change, things are different as we anticipate this gathering. Historically and presently, science is showing us that vaccines work to limit the spread of COVID-19. That is why we have made the choice to require proof of vaccination. And if you are, for some reason, unable to be vaccinated, we will require proof of negative COVID test. As a church and as a people of God, we believe in that science. We believe in that science that has brought us vaccines and is bringing us closer to the end of this pandemic. What we can tell you today, leaders, is to please urge your youth to be vaccinated if they can. Have open conversations, encourage the questions, encourage the wondering. And if you need any more resources to have those conversations, we have all sorts of links on the website, and we are happy to discuss that more. As far as other precautions, masking, social distancing, again, we're not making any promises, or we just don't know what the situation will be. But I will repeat, we do know that it will require enthusiastic participation from everyone involved in order to keep each other safe.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for your leadership and for your good work keeping people safe in Minneapolis and keeping our kids safe for the gathering. We've gotten some questions as it relates to the pandemic, and so maybe we'll get ahead of some Q&A here. But one of the questions we're hearing is, will housing look different because of the pandemic? And the short answer to that is no. And we've, some of the reasons there have to do with transportation, logistics, and costs, the available hotel inventory. So no, there is not a plan to, make sure everybody has their own room or whatever. And so the housing can proceed as you have in the past, and congregations make those decisions related to that. I've also gotten some questions around what happens if the gathering is canceled. And most of those questions have to do with refunds. And so if the gathering is canceled, then congregations have a few choices as to what to do to their with the money that they've paid. They can ask for a full refund. They can donate some or all of that deposit to the gathering, to the ministry of the gathering, recognizing that if we do have to cancel, that there are fees and penalties related to that. Or your congregation can choose to forward your deposits to the 2024 gathering. And then that'll just be kind of stored up there for a year or 18 months or whatever it is, until registration opens for 2024. So those will be your three choices should the gathering have to cancel. And like Rachel said, there's a whole bunch of great information on our website. There's a specific Q&A for kind of COVID-19 health and safety related things. So be sure to check out that FAQ. If you haven't subscribed to the G News yet, that's what goes out with the kind of latest and greatest updates. And of course, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms, because we try to push out content there as soon as we have it. And we've just pledged, to continue to be really transparent with people, as we've tried to do over the last 18 months, and to let you know things when we know things. And so we pledge to continue to do that. And thank you for your patience as we're all trying to figure out how to do a gathering in the midst of a global pandemic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean and Rachel and Molly, for all that great information. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of Zoom, and we'll start answering those now. Let's see. So someone is asking if their biggest nightmare occurs and a youth or an adult leader in their group ends up getting COVID-19, will the rest of the group need to be quarantined in their hotel rooms? Will they need to be going home? What will happen in that situation?
Yes, so we envision creating those different kind of protocols in the spring. So that's definitely something that's on the list, and we'll follow best practices. But yeah, our team will help you kind of figure out if one of your people test positive or get sick. We'll help you kind of figure out what the best steps are as far as quarantining and those kinds of things. But we don't have those protocols set out yet.
If that kind of thing happened today, the current guidance would be fully vaccinated individuals who are not symptomatic don't need to quarantine, but any unvaccinated individuals who were in proximity or exposed would, which again, is another strong argument for making sure that we're as vaccinated as an event as possible.
Will we have rapid COVID testing available on site?
We're all going to see who's going to jump in. I think the short answer is, as of now, no. But we will work. One of the things that Rachel and her team does is connect with local hospitals and urgent cares and those kinds of things. And so as part of that, I'm guessing that we'll also have some information as far as where folks can go to get tests. So the gathering probably won't be sponsoring that, but we know that we'll be able to point you in the right direction for testing. That sound about right, Rachel? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of answered the first question. We don't have those protocols in place yet because we don't know.
So there's a question about the vote that's happening this fall in Minneapolis around the police structuring. Will the outcome of that vote affect safety and security of the youth gathering? And maybe for people that don't know, a little like 101, what is happening?
The city of Minneapolis, as Chief Arredondo kind of touched on, is in the middle of a transformation, and their emphasis certainly is on accountability. Part of that is internal within the police department, but part of that is quite public. And the city of Minneapolis is voting on reforming what it means to be a police or peace officer in the city, and that vote is coming in November. That's part of the conversation we got to have with Chief Arredondo, and we spent a majority of our time talking about it because that's one of our concerns too. We were comforted by the reality that there will be a public safety presence, no matter what the outcome of that vote is in November, that will be better than what has been in the past. They're committed to making sure that there are, whether we call them peace or police officers, to make sure that there's a public safety presence for our event.
Awesome. There's a question about if people can have access to the video from the police chief to share with parents. Yeah, we are planning on sharing that on social media later this month. So if you want it before then, just email us at gathering@elca.org and we can get that to you. Will there be additional dedicated police presence and escort to service projects, or maybe kind of touch on like the walking path and where police will be?
Yeah, as I sort of alluded, I don't want to say optimistic, but it really feels like Minneapolis is committed to getting ahead of things with us and making sure that our transitions are as safe and as seamless as possible throughout our event. That said, police aren't the only thing we can do and use to make sure that our participants get from one place to another safely. And I can't speak highly enough for our own transportation team led by Kim Adams, or the transportation management service that we contract with, who move people at events bigger than ours on a daily basis and make sure that they have the right people in place to make sure kids get from one place to another safely as well.
There's a question around refunds. So Molly, maybe if you could answer this one. If the gathering is canceled, does each participant have a choice of like the three options of like donating it, refund, or forwarding it to 24, or does it have to be done as like a whole group decision?
I think the answer to that is both and. So we deal with registration on a congregational level. But if I was the primary adult leader and Rachel and Sean and Justin were all in my group, and Rachel wanted to donate hers to the ministry of the gathering, and Sean wanted a full refund, and Justin wanted his forwarded because he was an 8th grader and he's going to be there in 2024, the congregation could communicate that to us, and we would split it those three ways. So within a congregation, individuals can make choices, but then the congregational primary adult leader would communicate that to us.
There's a question just overall, like staffing of venues, and should there be any concern with like staffing impacts for like dining or transportation in the city next summer? Anyone want to answer that?
I mean, I think Rachel, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we don't know. No, we don't know, but safe to say, yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I love that question. Like, wow, I think that's a big part of just where I'm at overall right now as a nurse. Even if there's not a drop of COVID-19 in Minnesota next summer, the effects of this pandemic on our communities and our economies and our everything, like, wow. Yeah, we're dealing with a whole set of different things this round. So
yeah, and I think for venues and restaurants and those kind of things, I mean, I think it would be very similar to wherever you're coming from, right? I mean, no matter where I've been in the last 6 months as I've traveled around for different things, I mean, there's hiring, we're hiring in every restaurant that I go to. Everybody's trying to figure out, how to do the same amount of jobs with fewer people. So yeah, I mean, Minneapolis is going through that right now. Come spring or summer, hopefully some of that will be worked out and shifts will be filled. But I think too, I mean, maybe not, serving food, but some of those other things, that's where our gathering volunteer corps can come in really handy, and that we can support the staff of these big venues by saying like, okay, normally you would have somebody at this post, but we have these great volunteers, who can do that job, or things like that. So, we have a strong enough partnership, I think, with our big venues that we can work with them to make up for some of that, if that's still the case in the summer.
The volunteers are certainly a resource of our event. One of the implications that I'm most prepared for as I think about shortages is that it could just mean that things are going to cost more. And that'll have implications across the board. But I'm sure that we'll be staffed.
Awesome. There's a question around how is registration going compared to past years. It's going good. It's not as full as it was in 2018, but we kind of knew that going in. Just in the past few days, I've gotten a handful of calls from congregations that are just now kind of getting things ready for their group. And so we know that there's congregations still kind of at the first part of their planning process. So it's going good for right now. Is there any other questions? And if not, if you have something that comes up at the second after we hang up, you can email us gathering@elca.org and we can answer that. Oh, there are a few that just popped in. When will we know updated COVID protocols? When we know them. We are keeping a close eye on everything, and as we know more, and get closer to the event, we will have more updated information for you. So definitely stay tuned to the G News and the website and social media for that. Is there any plans to extend registration deadlines to allow people to register at a later date, but still get lower registration fees based on all of the uncertainty? No, unfortunately, we are sticking to the early bird, regular, and late registration rates that are on the website. So early bird ends November 21st. Awesome. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining us for our webinar this afternoon. Again, if I see a few more questions popping in, if we didn't get to you, please email us and we'll be happy to answer those, or if something comes up. I want to invite you all to register for our webinar on October 21st with Vanessa Young, who serves as the team leader for Synod coordinators. It'll be, I think it's called Tips and Tricks, Preparing Your Group and Fundraising. So kind of how to get started if you are in that boat or needing some more fundraising ideas. You can sign up for that on the website under the webinar tab, and we'll also send an email sometime next week with that link for you. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sean, Rachel, and Molly, for all of your wisdom, and yeah, have a great evening, everyone.